Well, good morning. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time or one of your first times, I appreciate you stepping in. I know sometimes it's hard to walk into a new place. And then if you're joining us online, thank you for doing that too. Now, typically I don't do this, but we have a new person serving in back. He's on visuals, and it's our younger son, Drew. So it's his first time. So if he messes up, I don't want anybody to say anything, okay? But instead, could we all just kind of look back? So could we practice that one time? Everybody look back over here, our visuals guy. Okay, that's what if you see something go wrong in the visuals, just don't say anything. Just everybody look over there, okay? Give it an awkward look. It'll be all right. So April 15th, 1989, some Chinese students had said they had enough, and they went to Tiananmen Square to protest the oppression of the government. And they tried to negotiate with the government officials until June 4th, when the government decided, we've had enough. And they brought in the army and crushed the rebellion. There's an iconic picture from that, one student standing in front of a tank. The death toll is unknown. Chinese government isn't real forthcoming on these things. But it is a reminder sometimes of what people in power will do when those under them rebel. You know, we are under the rule of God. He's the creator. You are here, I'm here. This world is here because he spoke it into existence. But the fact of the matter is we're creating a relationship with him, and we all push back. Well, either actively or passively say, no, God, you go your way, I'll go mine. I'll call my own shots. How does God respond to that kind of rebellion? Do we have any hope when we're living in that kind of rebellion? Honestly, I think we do. And I want to talk about that hope today. So if you got a Bible, if you would turn to Judges 16. We're going to go all the way through this chapter wrestling with the question, what's our hope when we rebel against God? What's our hope when we rebel against God? We've been in the book of Judges for the last number of weeks. And we're doing this not because it's an academic exercise, not because it's something good to know, but we hope it will be transformative in our life. We will be people that break the cycle. See, the people of Israel in Judges were living this cycle over and over and over again. Here's the cycle. Instead of worshiping God, they'd find some false god to follow. Well, when we do that, whether we worship money or prestige or power or comfort or whatever, we find out quickly that those gods promise life, but they enslave us. These people in the book of Judges suffered the consequences of their choices, and they cried out to God. God raised up a deliverer, and as long as the deliverer was alive, they followed him. When the deliverer died, they went back after another false god, and they lived the cycle over and over and over again. And our hope is that the Spirit of God will use us, that we don't live that cycle. Well, as we pick it up today, Israel's in the midst of one of those cycles. They're under the hand of the Philistines, and said it was 40 years. And in chapter 13, God says, I'm going to raise up a baby who's going to begin the process of deliverance. The baby's name is Samson. And from birth, even from the womb, he will take a Nazirite vow. He will be committed fully to me. And I will put my Spirit on him uniquely, which was all true. But Samson kind of has gone his own way, and he's done his own thing. And he's taken the blessing of God and used it for his own wants and desires, and particularly when it comes to choosing women. Samson has married whoever against the counsel of God. He's also used this to tear a lion apart, to get revenge after a bet. He's used the blessing of God for his own favor. And so we pick up Samson in the midst of these choices in chapter 16, verse 1. Here's what it says. Now, Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her. Okay, so there's no question here. Samson is outside the will of God. God doesn't want his people taking up with a prostitute. There's a place for the sexual relationship in marriage. Samson is violating that clearly. When it was told to the Gazites, saying Samson has come here, they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city, and they kept silent all night, saying, Let us wait until the morning light, then we will kill him. Samson, for his love of pleasure, has put himself in a dangerous situation. He's surrounded by people who want to take his life. They're mad because Samson has been God's instrument of judges on the Philistines, a wicked people, and they've suffered loss of life at the hands of Samson, and they think this is their opportunity. So they surround the thing, and they think daybreak will pounce. Except Samson's going to move before that. Now Samson lay until midnight, and at midnight he arose and took hold of the doors of the city gate and the two posts and pulled them along with the bars. Then he put them on his shoulders and carried them up to the top of the mount, which is opposite Hebron. Scholars say that's about 40 miles. All right, you talk about flexing on somebody. You think you're going to surround me? I'm one better. I'll get up at midnight, and I just won't leave. I'm going to take the city gates and the posts, and I'm going to haul those things 40 miles just to show you I am large and I am in charge. I mean, this is a flex on the people of Philistines. And Samson is presuming on the Spirit of God. God will empower this. He's empowered everything. He's rescued Samson every other time. Why not one more time? We'll see where that gets Samson. Verse 4. And after this came about that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek whose name was Delilah. So Samson's moved on from the harlot and he's got a new love interest. Again, a woman of the Philistines against the counsel of God. We don't know much about Delilah, but we know this in verse 5. The lords of the Philistines came to her and said to her, entice him and see where his great strength lies and how we may overpower him, that we may bind him to afflict him. Because man, Samson's afflicted us. We want revenge. Here's what's in it for her. Then we'll each give you 1,100 pieces of silver. Pastor, how much money is that? It's a lot. I don't know. It's a lot. You understand what this woman's value is? It's money. Money, money, money. She'll sell herself. She'll sell her affections. She'll pretend love for what? Money. So we got the guy who's pursuing pleasure and conquest with the woman who's pursuing money. How do you think that relationship's going to work out? Think that's going to be a good relationship? Well, let's find out. Verse 6. So Delilah said to Samson, please tell me where your great strength is and how you may be bound to afflict you. Well, she's not being subtle. Samson's loving the game. If they bind me with 7 fresh cords that have not been dried, then I will become weak and be like any other man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh cords that had not been dried, and she bound them with them, just like Samson said. So here we go. Then she had the men lying in wait in the inner room, and she said to them, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he snapped the cords as a string of tow snaps when it touches fire, so his strength was not discovered. That would be strike one. Psych. You thought you had me. You thought I was going to tell you, and pop. I just popped those cords. Samson, you ought to leave. This woman wants to take you down, but man, he's having too much fun. Man, he's playing the game and he's winning. And he's showing who's boss. So here we go. Second opportunity. Verse 13. Then Delilah said to Samson. Wait, I missed one. Let's try verse 10. Then Delilah said to Samson, behold, you've deceived me and told me lies. Now please tell me how you may be bound. Well, she's nothing if not persistent. He said, if they bind me tightly with new ropes which have not become used, then I'll become weak like any other man. So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. How do you think it's going to go? The men were lying in wait in the inner room, but he snapped the ropes from his arms like a thread. Gotcha again, psych, that's 2 times. You thought it was that, and you fell for it, and pop those ropes, and man, Samson having fun. He's playing the game and winning. And you think this woman will get discouraged, but what's in it? There's a big payday for her if she can get the information out of him. So she's going to continue playing the game. Here's her third attempt. Verse 13. Then Delilah said to Samson, up to now you have deceived me and told me lies. about how he be bound. He said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my hair with the web and fasten it with a pin, then it will become weak and be like any other man. So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his hair and wove them into the web. And she fastened it with the pin and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the pin of the loom and the web. That's strike 3. Man, Samson's playing. He's winning. He's winning. You ought to leave. But how can you leave when you're on a winning streak, man? Right? Pleasure and conquest. But she wants money. So she's willing to double down. Verse 15. Then she said to him, how can you say, I love you, when your heart is not with me? Samson, how can you say I love you when you're, how can you do this to me? You've deceived me these 3 times and have not told me where your great strength is. She's deep, people, she's deeply wounded. Samson, you should have left. Verse 16, it came about when she pressed him daily, every day, friends, every day, with her words and urged him, and his soul was annoyed to death. The Bible says flee immorality for a reason. Samson did it. Didn't. He thought he was above it. Verse 17, so he told her all that was in his heart and said to her, a razor has never come on my head, for I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If I'm shaved, then my strength will leave me, and I will become weak like any other man. Finally, she gets to Samson's soul. She finds out what in his heart. That's what every woman wants in marriage. That's fair, right? What's she do with that intimate information? Well, she sells it. Verse 18. When Delilah saw that he had told her all that was in his heart, she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up once more, for he has told me all that is in his heart. I don't know what these guys are thinking, but they've been played 3 times, but they're pretty mad, so they'll give it another shot. Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hands. She made him sleep on her knees and called for a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his hair. Then she began to afflict him, and his strength left him. She said, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he awoke from his sleep, and he said, I will go out as at other times and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. He presumed on God. God had been showing up and showing up. Even Samson had been doing what he wanted. God had been showing up and showing up and showing up. And Samson thought God would always be there. See, God is gracious and he's patient and he puts up with our sin. He's long-suffering. But he's also just and righteous and holy. And at some point, he will act. And he acted here by leaving. Samson, you're on your own. The Spirit of God won't be coming upon you. Samson presumed on God, and it caught up with him. Before I go on, I need you and I to reflect. Are you? Am I presuming on God? I've been work, I've been charging for hours at home, monitoring email. Not exactly acting in integrity. And that's not right, but man, I've been collecting extra money. I mean, I seem to be getting away with it. Are you presuming upon God in your integrity or your finances? Man, I've been in this relationship and it is not godly. We have not been right before the Lord, but we seem to be getting away with it. Are you presuming upon God? I have been told in the scriptures over and over again, I need to forgive that person, but man, you don't understand how deep it was, and I just kind of enjoy holding on to it. And are you presuming upon God? See, Samson's account reminds us that at some point, God will judge our sin. He will judge our presumption. And that's where Samson is right now. Then the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. And they brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze chains, and he was a grinder in the prison. So what happens, the wheat comes in and you need to crush it so it'll become flour. And it goes on lands on a lip of a rock, and there's another rock that goes around and crushes it, and the grain keeps coming down, and once it's crushed, it goes down. And they need somebody to be the one who goes around and around and around and around and pushes that wheel. He's the grinder. That's Samson attached to that thing. There's probably a soldier behind him saying, pick it up, let's go, because the faster he goes, the more. Eyes gouged out, serving as a grinder. Samson's presumption upon God has got him in a bad spot. But he's not the only one presuming foolishly. Verse 22, however, the hair of his head began to grow after it was shaved off. You'd think the Philistines would do something about that, but they presumed something that was very entirely wrong. Verse 23, now the lords of the Philistines assembled to offer great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to rejoice, for they said, our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hands. When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, our God has given our enemy into our hands, even the destroyer of our country who has slain many of us. You know what their mistake is? They think their God pulled this off. We can trust this Dagon because he finally subdued Samson. No, you drew the wrong conclusion here. Dagon ain't got nothing to do with this. It was the Lord in heaven who said, Samson, your actions demand at some time that I act, and I'm going to hand you over to the Philistines. This was the Lord God of Israel acting, not the God of the Philistines. They're presuming, they're making a very wrong assumption, and it will cost them. Verse 25, it so happened when they were in high spirits that they said, call for Samson that he may amuse us. So they called for Samson from prison, and he entertained them, and they made him stand between the pillars. Verse 26 and 27, then Samson said to the boy who was holding his hand, let me feel the pillars on which the house rests, that I may lean against them. And the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there, and about 3,000 men and women were on the roof looking on while Samson was amusing them. Friends, this is Devani. This is PBA, maxed out, standing room only. And we brought people from D.C. We got the president. We got the cabinet. We got the Speaker of the House. Not only that, we got the governor. We got state senators. We got the mayor. We got the who's who to see this show. Because our nemesis, who our God has controlled, is under our control, and we're going to just enjoy that after what he's done. We got everybody in the house. And that's where Samson is. Verse 28. Then Samson called to the Lord and said, O Lord, please remember me and please strengthen me just this time. O God, that I may at once be avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Samson wants God to show up. Seriously, Samson? After the way you took the Spirit of God and used him for your own thing, after you flaunted God the way you did, after you took off after ungodly woman against the council of people, you want God to show up? Is that what you're asking? Dude, you have been living in rebellion. You have thumbed your nose at God, and now you want him to act on your behalf? That ain't how God rolls, is it? I mean, this guy's got a blacklist that's a mile long. And he has the audacity to call out to God in faith. One time, Lord. Verse 29. Samson grasped the 2 middle pillars on which the house rested and braced himself against them, one with his right hand, the other with his left. And Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. And he bent with all his might so that the house fell on the lords and all the people who were in it. So the dead whom he killed at his death were more than those whom he killed in his life. Then his brothers and all his father's household came down, took him, brought him up, and buried him in Zorah and Eshtal, in the tomb of Manoah his father. Thus he judged Israel 20 years. God listened. Seriously. After all that rebellion, God listened? Yeah, he did. He did. I don't know about you. That gives me a lot of hope. You got some rebellion towards God in your life? You got some pushback? So do I. You got some stuff in your past where you think God must have disqualified me. I have no business calling out to him. The life and story of Samson would say differently. That God responds to the prayer of faith even with rebellious people. See, we started asking this question, what's our hope when we rebel against God? Here's what I'd say. God responds to the faith of rebellious people. Seriously. God responds to the faith of rebellious people. That's the hope of Samson. That's the hope of the gospel. Romans 5:8 says this about every one of us. But God demonstrates his own love towards us in that while we were yet sinners, we were in rebellion towards God, Christ died for us. See, we've all got this part of our life that, God, you go your own way, I'm going to run my life. We don't like authority, we push back. You don't believe that? You've been a parent, you've been a grandparent, you've been an aunt, you've been an uncle. What's the first word that cherished little boy or girl learns? No. Don't you tell me what. No. That's a sinful nature, friends. That's a rebellious nature. We have it towards people who will try and be in authority to us, and we really have it towards God. Who are you? I'm God. The good news is Jesus lived the life we're supposed to live in perfect submission to the Father, followed his plan right up to the cross, was crucified on a Friday, certified dead, put in the tomb, came back to life on a Sunday for your rebellion and for mine. If you never trusted him, I want to invite you to trust him right now. He begins the process of God hearing your prayer of faith in rebellion and my prayer of faith in rebellion. Now, Samson is central to this, and as we talked before, every failed deliverer, every failed judge, and Judges has a bunch of them, don't they? Flawed men and women who were deliverers, Gideon, Jephthah, and now Samson. There's others. Every failed judge, and if we were to read the rest of the Old Testament, Kings and Chronicles, every failed king points to our desire for a perfect Savior. We have one, only one. His name is Jesus. And for the sake of this account, let me just compare Jesus and Samson. Samson was marked by rebellion, wasn't he? Jesus was marked by submission. There's a contrast there between Samson and Jesus. Samson died for his sin, didn't he? Underneath the crown. Jesus died for our sin on the cross, didn't he? It's a contrast. Samson died for his sin. Jesus died for our sin. In Samson's death, he brought the death of thousands of people, didn't he? The judgment of God. In Jesus' death, well, he brought the life of billions of people. Samson, the failed deliverer, ended up bringing death. Jesus, the perfect deliverer, ended up bringing life. Samson reminds us we're looking forward to the perfect deliverer, the perfect Savior, and his name is Jesus. And it's because of him that we can talk about me and you, even in our rebellion, God hearing our prayer. But before I leave, Samson, I need to ask us to one more time reflect on Samson's big mistake. He presumed on God. I can just keep doing this, whatever this is, and God will show up. God will bail me out. And maybe you're looking at stuff online. Maybe you're gossiping at work, and you know that isn't right. You don't need Pastor Andy to tell you that. You just say, hey, I'm getting away with it. Please, let's not presume on the holiness and the righteousness and the perfection of God. If you got some stuff going on, now's the time to deal with it. Let's not be presumptuous people. God is gracious, and he's long-suffering, and he's patient. He's also holy, righteous, and just, and those come together perfectly in him. He will judge sin. He will wait patiently. He will judge it. Where's that line? We don't want to find out. Samson did, and he's sorry he did. If you're presuming on God, ask the Spirit of God to move on from that. Empower you to move on from that. When I was in high school, I was an athlete, part of the swim team, a couple other sports when I was younger. So I was one of the jocks. We had the jocks and the greasers, right? And man, those two groups didn't mix. The greasers dressed differently. They hung out. There was a smoking area out there, and they ate at different lunch tables. And I mean, you sat in classroom. I mean, if this group started here, these guys, they went the other way. And if you were a greaser and there was a lunch table of jocks there, you don't sit down there. You don't sit down until you get your life cleaned up. You quit acting like that. You quit dressing like that. You start acting right, and maybe in time you could sit at this table. But you clean your life up first before you come sitting here. Aren't you glad Jesus isn't like us? Because what Jesus did, he got up from the jock table and he went over and sat at the greaser table. He said, I just want to get to know you just as you are. Yeah, maybe you're living this, that, and the other, but that don't matter to me. I'm interested in you. That's the God we serve. And see, we're all the greasers. We're all in rebellion. And Jesus comes and he says he's friend of sinners. And even in rebellion, Jesus, I hear your prayer of faith. That's the hope we have when we're in rebellion to God. Jesus hears the prayer of faith, even of the rebellious people.